Well, howdy, friends. Adam Westlake from the Worship Initiative here. I'm here with Andy from Alclair. Andy, we've been hanging out today talking about in-ears and really wanted to, in this video, hear about just kind of the line of custom molded in-ear monitors that y'all have. You've got like a pretty broad range for a lot of different kinds of applications. So I'd love to just hear you kind of talk about it to help us understand what might be helpful for different folks.
I'll be the first to admit, like, it's both a really nice thing and kind of an Achilles heel to have so many models.
Sure.
And, you know, it kind of fits, though, our philosophy is first of all, we want to make sure we're protecting people's hearing, and we want to enable you to do what you're called to do, what you're, designed for. And then we want to inspire people. And in order to do that, we recognize that it doesn't only have to sound good, but it has to hit you where you are, like price-wise.
Yeah.
So we really have, everything is kind of broken down into kind of price point instead of model or driver count. So a lot of times we'll have people come to us and say, well, I'm a bass player, I need four drivers. And we'll say, well, why? And they'll never really tell you the answer, but you figure out that, well, it's just the other company's base model starts with 4 drivers, right? So that's the impression. But we took a different approach. We're like, if you can only spend, X amount of dollars, and, our base models start at $359, so they're still expensive. We recognize that, but they are a custom product, right? It is handmade for your ears. But we start off as, all right, if you're a bass player, if you're a drummer, if you're a guitar player, if you're a vocalist who likes a little bit of low end, we have a Dual XB. It's going to serve you really, really well. And if you're a keyboard player or someone who likes things a little bit more flat, less contour, and I think we talked about that someplace else, the Versa is going to do it. But you can choose between those, what's right for you in that price point.
That's great.
Then we go up to 3 drivers. And now we've got the Tour, which is actually pretty contoured. It's got actually a big woofer, if that can be said. I mean, they're still small because they've been years, but relatively big woofer. And it's got a feel to it. It's the first model we've got that really has a groove that it just feels really good. So guitar players love it, drummers, bass players. Then we have the ST3, which is a new addition to our line here in the last year. And it is one of our favorite models, of people who work at Alclair. It is just beautiful. It's big and it's warm and it's detailed, and it's a little bit more on that flat side, where the Tour has, bumps. It's a little flatter, and again, it's one of those that punches well above its price point. And acoustic instruments, keyboards, vocalists, people who like that. And listening, if you just are buying something for listening, it's one of the best ones in our range, even compared to some of the more expensive ones. So then we step up and we move into 4 drivers. We've got actually the RSM, which is a 4 driver, and then we kind of pair it in this range with the CMVK, which is the RSM is flat, balanced. The low end is punchy, which means a kick is going to come and go. And so that allows it to be more clear. Mm-hmm. It doesn't kind of linger, and mud up a mix. We love the RSM for worship leaders. It's on that more accurate presentation. So it's probably my favorite model for front of house for mixing.
Awesome.
And multi-instrumentalists, they can start to get into that as long as one of those multiple instruments isn't drums.
Sure.
We do get that every once in a while. Well, I'm a drummer and I'm a studio engineer. Which one should I get?
It's a really different applications.
Totally different.
Totally.
The Crankmaster, the CMVK, is the first one I fell in love with, and it's 4 low-end drivers, so it has massive headroom. It's not going to distort.
Yep.
And it's not filtered on the low end, so it goes off the charts.
Yeah.
So like 10 hertz, you start to feel it. And as a bass player, I started playing so I could feel bass. And then I start playing in churches and they give me a direct box. I'm like,
yeah.
Are you kidding me?
So you've hacked it.
So that's the life hack for those of you who are playing bass on a stage and they took away your amp, right? You get the Crankmaster and you start to feel it a little bit more.
It's awesome.
Our most popular model is our 6-driver Spire. We do our 6-driver a little different than some of the competitors in that instead of being 2 low, 2 mids, and 2 highs, we do 4 lows. And what that does is that takes all of the low-end energy, 80% of our modern music is low-end energy, dedicates it to those network of 4 drivers, works super efficiently. Then the mid and the tweeter hardly have to work at all. It's got a little bit of a contour, but again, is like the tour where there's a feel to it. It's probably the most versatile model. So
Awesome.
You can use it if you're a multi-instrumentalist, worship leader who's singing and playing. That's kind of why it's our most popular. The next one, we'll kind of parenthesize here and go to the Studio 4 and the Electro, which aren't exactly the same price class, but parenthesize them by they're kind of designed for the studio use. The Studio 4 is flat, clinical, almost boring.
Yeah, it's like almost sterile. It's so accurate.
Yeah, and in a good way, right?
Yeah.
That's when you just need to hear everything exactly as it is.
I mean, as a mix engineer, I look for that in my studio monitors.
Yes, it's exactly right. And then also kind of the counterweight to that is the Electro, which was the first custom in-ear monitor to have electrostatic drivers, which is a little bit different technology. And it works a little bit more like a condenser mic where there's constant voltage on a little thin membrane and it just keeps snapping it back. So it accentuates the upper end, gives you this clarity and this detail. And we actually, how we voice it, you don't hear it per se. Sometimes something with a lot of upper end sounds harsh and brittle. And we use
It's almost more a perception than a hearing.
Yeah, it's just kind of layered underneath everything. And when you listen to it, everything starts jumping out that you never heard before. I mean, it's a really effective way of re-listening to all of your music.
Yeah.
Because you go
I
back
love that experience.
and you're like, that Pearl Jam song, I didn't know that was a spring reverb, but I can hear it so clearly.
Totally.
On the other hand, using it, let's say for front of house, is going to show you every flaw in that's there. But those flaws you hear in that are so detailed that they'll never be in the house. So you have to remember that.
It can almost get you stuck in the weeds.
Yeah, you can.
Totally.
So then we move up to the RevX. So the RevX and the Electro are kind of the same price point. The RevX is 10 drivers, and that has that same 4-driver low-end network, so massive headroom, 4 mids. Let's see, that's 8, a tweeter and a super tweeter. And it's like a monster. It's huge. In the kind of 80s, there was a producer who was known for a sound they called a wall of sound, right?
Yep.
It was like there's no holes. It's just guitar, guitar, guitar. Everything is filled. That's the RevX. It's just so powerful and big. Bass players, drummers, especially people who are on big stages, professionals who are playing day in, day out, lots of crowd noise, just need a lot of power. And I mean, you feel the power. And man, you hear someone who really plays a snare hard. I mean,
you're going to benefit from something
like that. You're
going to
hear that.
Yeah.
And it's just right there. Then the last one is the ESM. And we don't like to talk about a flagship per se, because flagship usually means just like your latest, most expensive.
Sure, that's true.
But the ESM it's got 4 low end. So again, you have that headroom. It's got 4 electrostatic drivers. Okay. And what you're getting there is it does have a contour, so it is kind of a stage model. But again, you're getting from the electrostatics that clarity and that detail and the stuff that you hear. The brilliance of this one, and the Electro as well, but this one even more so, is soundstage. So when we say soundstage, that just means more kind of front and back instead of just left to right. So typically a headphone, it's just you're mixing left to right. But when you are in the ESM, you're hearing stuff front to back as well, and it's just really immersive experience. And man, so your big professional musicians are using that, and vocalists who want to hear the clarity of their voice and the stuff that's going on around them. And really, when you start to move up to that level, you're spending the money on something like that because you want to.
Yeah.
Right. You don't necessarily need to. I can't think of any reason why you would need that.
Yeah. But it's fun to have.
But it is absolutely amazing to use, and it's inspiring, right? Totally. So you're starting to move into the world of intangibles.
Yeah.
But sometimes those intangibles are the thing that makes a difference, right? Yeah. a vocalist on tour, you're singing the same song day in, day out, day in, day out. That inspiration, that little feeling that you're loving what you're hearing, actually makes a huge
It maintains
difference.
your inspiration so that you want to keep going.
Exactly.
Gosh, so awesome. Friends, hope this video has been helpful to you. We have this video and so many more in-ear training resources, videos, blogs, things like that over at the Worship Initiative, as well as like hundreds of song training videos, Bible training videos, worship leader training, just all things for worship leaders, worship teams. So if this video has been helpful to you, come over to theworshipinitiative.com, sign up for a trial, jump in with us, and we would just love to serve you however we can. Andy, this was really fun.
Yeah, my pleasure,
Thanks, man.
It's great.